moodiness, caution and incaution in expression, patience and impatience, passion, romance, ideas and beliefs. These are all pressures and qualities that this cycle of the human design weather for June 13th to 19th, 2025 will bring. Plus, we have a major shift today, the 13th, as I'm recording this, with a nodal change that speaks to direction and environment, moving us out of the background frequencies of crisis and conflict that we've had for a few months now and into grace or disgrace and oppression and realization. Hello, hello there. I'm Margot Fraser, your guide through the cosmic weather as a certified human design professional and intuitive coach. I'm on a mission to help you know, live, and love the magic of your true nature. Well, I've just recently got back home and a little bit late getting this out. Sorry about that. This cycle started a little bit earlier in the day today in the wee hours. So, yes, but very, very interesting cycle that we're in, pretty potent this time. So let's explore those conditioning influences, the planetary motions, the transit field, what it's bringing for us, so that rather than you reacting and being pulled off track by these pressures and frequencies, this awareness can really empower you to navigate the cycle, staying true to your authentic nature and perhaps take advantage of opportunities when correct for you. So let's dive into this. This cycle begins on June 13th at 3:20 a.m., going until June 19th at 12:43 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. That's June 13th at 9:20 a.m. Universal Time coordinates, going until June 19th at 6:43 a.m. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. Well, the Sun now has moved into gate 12, the trait of caution and standstill in the throat center. So we know this is going to bring some kind of expression. It's part of the individual circuitry that can bring mutation, something new, through a pulse of knowing. In this case, of something mutative that may shift the way that we relate to one another. The keynote for this trait says the quality of restraint and the importance of meditation and inaction in confronting temptation. What's the temptation? The temptation is to express your feelings and just blurt out your moods. As a mutative trait that could bring something new, it has a built-in mechanic to be restrained until you're in an aligned mood, which is also why the name of this trait is standstill. And patience is really needed because to be mutative, you have to express to the right people at the right time by following your strategy and authority. This trait brings individual expressions of feeling. It points to the emotional center through knowing. It can bring a moodiness. It can bring out or articulate passions. It can be romantic. It can be brooding. It can be volatile. It can be beautiful. It can be ecstatic. It can also, like every individual trait, drop into melancholy. The melancholy here that there's no one to listen to what you have to say. It has the potential to be incredibly articulate when it does express itself. It's part of the only social channel of the individual circuitry, and it's one of the three gates of aloneness. Here, waiting until the proper mood for the moment to release the awareness of your emotional spirit, and then it will withdraw again. This is the voice of I try or not. It can say, I know I can try if I'm in the mood. I know I can be social. I'm just not in the mood for it right now. I know I can be alone. I'm just not in the mood to be alone right now. So I'm not in the mood. You might hear that come through this here as well. Now, if the patience and restraint isn't there, the polarity can play out, and it's the voice of incaution. And in that incaution can be volatile, provoking, angry, agitated. It could come out as being very aggressive with what you or what those around you are not in the mood for, or perhaps in the mood for. I'm in no mood for your shenanigans. This trait could also be overly cautious, never speaking out the mutative knowing, which is a real shame because it's meant to bring through mutation, but sometimes if it suppresses, even if you know through strategy and authority, it's time to express, fear can hold it back. The earth has moved into gate 11, the trait of ideas and peace in the ajna center, the seat of our mental processes. That's the second diamond from the top of the chart. It's our mental awareness center. And it has a keynote that says a harmonic condition in the individual or society that permits assessment before renewed action. It's part of our collective abstract circuitry. Ideas. Well, ideas need to be considered and assessed. They bring different perspectives. The collective abstract circuitry is about making sense of the past. And in this trait, gaining ideas from the realizations that can eventually be shared. It's the place where belief systems are developed as the ideas become beliefs. Now, remember, this isn't logic. Beliefs are not based in fact, but people can be incredibly fervent about their beliefs. We've all seen and heard that. It may have come through you, right? The thing about your ideas is that they're mostly not for you to do anything about. You don't actually have to take action on all of your ideas. As the ideas flow down to the throat and out, that's the end of it. And there's no motor there for taking action. I mean, you can make yourself really miserable and feel incapable if you're trying to fulfill on every idea that your mind has. You could get some really great ideas, and as you express them, that can be really inspiring to others, perhaps shifting them into action. And similarly, as ideas are coming through others and being expressed, you may find something that's really stimulating, and your strategy and authority says, "Ooh, yeah, we're going to take some action on that." This is also a trait that can help to educate the uneducated. Line 4, one of the subdivisions of this trait, is called the teacher. It's a trait that can bring the ability to really paint a picture for someone so that they can understand something that they may never have experienced themselves. It's the trait that's associated with the left eye. The assessment piece in the keynote is also about determining if the idea really has value or not. Is the idea really something that contributes to the collective, or is it completely impractical? We could see people blurting out ideas that are not fully formed and totally impractical this cycle. So just have a little bit of humor with that. But they might really be trying to convince you to believe in them. Or perhaps you'll be the one that's trying to do the convincing. Again, it's fine if it's coming from your strategy and authority. Just remember that ideas are transitory. They're not meant to be fixed. Let it go when it's time, when something new comes in. When we look at these two traits together, mutative ideas that shift relationships for better or for worse may be expressed here, and articulate expression may really open one's mind to new ideas, or an inarticulate expression or not expressing one's knowing when it's really correct could close minds or fail to shift the prevailing belief system, whatever is being discussed there. All right, we have a big nodal change coming in this cycle as well. 3 hours after this cycle start is when it came in. This is about the lunar nodes, and they represent our direction, our environment, and what we see when we look out into the world. So you have your direction embedded in your own nodes in your chart. This is going to bring a collective pressure of direction. And of course, it will impact us personally as well. It can bring wisdom or it can pull us off track. We have moved from the crisis and conflict of gates 36 and 6, respectively. I should make a note here that it will take a bit of time for the new direction to really establish itself. And these nodes that we're moving into will be with us until November 3rd at 4:22 Mountain Daylight Time. That's 11:40 a.m. UTC. The North Node has moved into gate 22, the trait of openness, or it can be closeness, also called grace or disgrace. That's in the solar plexus, the emotional center. Its keynote says a quality of behavior best suited in handling mundane and trivial situations. Part of that individual circuitry that operates in a pulse of knowing and always wants to bring through something mutative, which in turn can be very empowering. It's a trait that can bring a real politeness. This is the grace, being courteous to one another. Or we could see rudeness and disgrace. It's in the emotional center, so the highs and the lows are both there. It's a trait that's very acoustic. It's the trait of the left ear that hears in a wave. So it takes time in hearing something and hearing it again to build up a very rich picture over time from the acoustics. And it's not about the words that are being spoken so much as the tone and the pitch. I have this trait in my design, and there are just, when you have this, certain tones and pitches that, it's like nails on the chalkboard, certain voices, it's not personal. It's just what comes through that left ear. It's so attuned to that tone and pitch. Very, very hard to learn from someone if you have this trait whose tone and pitch you don't enjoy. This is a trait that can really listen attentively to others and would especially love to hear the passions of others. But over time, it's taking in whatever there is there to listen to. This brings a direction of grace. And once again, grace is rooted in the politeness of allowing others to go first, being congenial in social situations, the polarity of disgrace and the inevitable humiliation that comes from trying to put oneself before others in a rude way can also be here in this direction. So we may see this as we look out into the world. It's part of the channel of openness that we just talked about with the sun's position being in that gate 12. It's electromagnetic. So we'll talk about the channel that creates shortly. As the trait of standstill, it can also bring something to a close. The South Node has moved into gate 47, the trait of oppression and realization in the Openness center, the seat of our mental awareness, where we're seeing the Earth's position also. The keynote says a restrictive and adverse state as a result of internal weakness or external strength or both. This is mentally trying to find the point of an experience and make sense of it. It's a really tough process. Think about the movie of your life, and these clips are coming in, and there's things going on around you that you're trying to understand and integrate, but they all kind of come in out of order. And this is what this gate's trying to do, is put everything into order, put the puzzle pieces together. At a high level, it's about trying to make sense mentally of the human experience. It's part of that collective abstract impersonal sharing of wisdom of experience. Since it's collective, it's an environment of trying to find the point in the confusion that can be there of human experience. So there can be this sense of feeling restricted because of what's going on around you and the pressure that it brings to make sense of it all. Now, this can also be an environment where you're getting those ahas. You do put the puzzle pieces together. That does take patience, though. And generally, we tend to be an impatient species, right? We tend to jump the gun, thinking that we've made sense of something when we haven't waited long enough to gather all the relevant pieces. So, yes, there can be the ahas, but it's still a difficult and oppressive mental process to do all that sorting. The external strength in the keynote is the pressure from what's going on around you. And the internal weakness it speaks to is the inability to have that patience with the process and realize that almost everything does sort itself out with time. When we look at these two traits together, what they might bring to the collective is the ability to be open to really listening to each other in a way where we might then put the puzzle pieces together and have some real ahas. If we're not open to listening to each other, there may be a greater sense of oppression. Now, what's really interesting this cycle is that these nodes are in the same streams, respectively, as the sun and earth positions. So, gate 22 creates a channel with the sun's position. Again, we'll look at that shortly. And gate 47, the realizations from putting all those puzzle pieces together, is what feeds across into the gate of ideas, gate 11. The nodes move through the lines backwards. So normally we move forwards for most of the planets, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, unless there's a retrograde. Here for the nodes, they move in the reverse direction. So we actually start with line 6. And I particularly want to talk about gate 47, line 6, that's here right now, because it's one of the few lines in the body graph that has no exaltation. It's only in detriment. And it's called futility, hopelessness. What it says is where the strength of will alone may find a way to adapt and survive, but without hope of ever overcoming the oppression. Life is an ordeal, stripped of realization. This could really amplify a sense of hopelessness in the world at the collective level. Fortunately, we move out of line 6 on June 24th, so we've got it for about 11 days, but really bring that to awareness. You might notice around you this sense of mental melancholy and, what's the point of life itself? You might feel that within yourself. Now, at a personal level, the 6th line always brings an opportunity to transcend, to go beyond, and bring an understanding of something beyond the mental experience of life. But if you really start feeling a sense of hopelessness around humanity and the human experience, it's going to take some willpower to just be with it for these 11 days. Gate 22 in line 6 is called maturity. So maybe that'll help offset some of this. It has a developmental theme that says the alignment with experience of form with substance. So it brings the possibility that experience in social situations will result in a leadership capacity. Through that clear ability to articulate, to express. Or in its detriment, instead of a leadership capacity coming out of that, there could be the potential for nonconformist expression. So more of a rebellious expression. Okay, let's move to our channels now. A reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving the activation of the related traits and qualities. So it does have a big impact. We have our medium term channel being created by that sun's position in gate 12 and the node, what we were just talking about, being in the gate 22 position, the trait of grace. Together, they create the channel of openness. So it's going to be here for this full cycle. The channel of openness is a design of a social being. It can be very social. It can be very antisocial. The polarity is always there. First of all, it's emotional. It's bringing emotionality to the field. That expression in gate 12 is now empowered by the motor and the possible awareness, the possible grace or disgrace of gate 22. This type of emotional wave operates in a spike wave. So it's pretty even. And then when it's triggered, it can spike high or low. That's going to be amplified for those of you that have the emotional center undefined or white in your chart. So just keep that in mind. Keep those surfboards out to ride these emotional spikes that may come in for you. This channel brings the pressure to be socially open or socially closed. It can bring the intensity of the emotions to the mood, whether up or down. It can bring romance. It can bring passion. It can ultimately, as it expresses itself, shift others' emotion. It's the only social channel in the individual circuitry. It has this kind of chameleon quality to it. Individuals are always a little bit weird, a little bit freaky. They're here to bring through something mutative. But here with this chameleon quality, it really allows the individual to seem like they're like the tribe or like the collective. So they'll be accepted into it, which in turn allows a greater potential to bring through the mutation, that spark that could be taken up by the tribe or the collective. It can bring a real grace and politeness to interactions and has that built-in cautiousness and expression from knowing that the tribe and the collective aren't always ready to hear and accept the mutation, the new that wants to come through. Or it can bring rudeness, aggressiveness, disgrace to interactions, and incautiousness in expression, splattering the moods all over the place, can be kind of volatile. So we see the polarities here. It's a channel of making music together, literally and romantically. It can be very fickle. It can turn on a dime, very acoustic and attuned, as I mentioned, with that gate 22 to the pitch and the quality of voice, of tone. You may really enjoy listening to music in particular, music that you're in the mood for in this cycle. The opportunity is the possibility of bringing your unique expression to social interactions in a way that shifts them, to be open in a graceful way to others. The caution is that if you pulse down in the mood, well, you might just want to withdraw and be more socially closed. It's what you're going to feel like anyway, rather than bring that bad mood into the social situations. For those of you that have this channel in your chart, yeah, you've really got to allow yourself to follow your moods. If you're not in the mood to eat, you don't eat. If you're not in the mood to go out, you don't go out. There can be emotional enthusiasm or volatility here with that connection from the emotional center right up to the throat. All right, the rest of the channels that we have are being created by transits of the moon. So just little samples as the moon only activates a gate for about 10 to 11 hours, give or take. So I'll just quickly go through these. First one's coming in June 13th at 11:36 a.m., going until 10:13 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, that's coming in June 13th at 5:36 p.m. until the 14th at 4:13 a.m. We have The channel of awareness being created, gate 61 in the head center, connecting with gate 24 in the ajna center. And the channel of awareness is a design of a thinker. It's another part of the individual circuitry. Wants to bring through something mutative in the mental process. A pulse of knowing could come through at any time. And then you've got to determine, is this really new? Is this really new? Gate 61 is the trait of mystery, wants to delve into the mysteries of life, wants to know. And gate 24 in the Ajna Center is the trait of rationalizing, the return, going over and over again, because eventually you have to explain it. And knowings aren't based in fact or making sense. It's a knowing. So how am I going to explain this eventually to others? And is it something new? So it's also comparing against what you already know. It can be very inspirational to think about life's mysteries. You can have some really philosophical conversations around the mysteries of life. Can also drop into mental melancholy. The knowing's never going to drop in. Also very acoustic. Can bring like hearing voices, hearing music in the mind. And here, the key is letting go of the need to know. Just accept that a pulse of knowing may come through, it may not. You have no control over that. Next up, June 16th, coming in at 2:12 a.m., going until 12:22 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. That's June 16th at 8:12 a.m., going until 6:22 p.m. UTC. We have the channel of recognition, a design of focused energy coming in, part of the abstract experiential circuitry. We can see what's playing out this cycle. Lots of kind of abstract, collective nature and individual nature. Well, gate 41 is the trait of contraction and decrease in the root center, while gate 30 is the trait of recognition of feelings. And together they create the channel of recognition of feelings, a design of focused energy. The opportunity here is to get clarity from all the experiences that you might fantasize about having, to which one do you truly desire. This is the first part of the abstract feeling experiential stream. The caution here is that you can't have any expectations about the experience and what it might bring, and one experience at a time. You might have lots of things you'd love to experience, but what is the one that you're really yearning for? Got to be patient and get that clarity. As this one moves out at 12:22 p.m. on June 16th Mountain Time, going until 10:29 p.m., we have the moon moving into gate 55, the trait of emotional spirit. UTC, this comes in the 16th at 6:22 p.m., going until the 17th at 4:29 a.m. This is connecting with Mercury's position, gate 39, the trait of the provocateur in the root center. This creates a channel of emoting, a design of moodiness. Another part of the individual circuitry. In fact, this is the stream that leads up to the 12:22, that channel of openness. Here it brings a pressure to find your spirit, your emotional spirit, find your passion. It could drop into melancholy that there's nothing to be passionate about. Like the 12:22, it operates in a spike wave, going up, or way down. So we'll have this short period of time where we've got that full individual feeling circuit. That brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're here with us for a longer period of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind, your shadow mind, may start to think they're part of you, even when it's not something you have in your design. And then when it goes out, oh, it's a little confusing. Well, we've already talked about the nodes, so let's move on. Jupiter, with its quality of expansion, still sitting in gate 15, the trait of extremes in the G center. That center is about our love, identity, and direction in life. It's in line 3, called ego inflation. This is a trial and error line. The idea of this trait is that you allow yourself to move along the pendulum of extremes from one side to the other. But there can be a tendency with this to hold on to an extreme that you may find is useful for dealing with others. So, for example, you might have found that always being early has been beneficial. So you hold on to that and you never let yourself swing to the being late, right? This is the ego getting involved. I'm going to will myself to always be early, even when my being naturally wants to swing to the other side. So you lose that natural movement and the wisdom that can be gained through that diversity that eventually allows you to find the balance in the extremes. Saturn and Neptune still sitting in gate 25, the trait of the spirit of the self, innocence, universal love, or the polarity, also in the G center. Neptune sitting in line 5 called recuperation. This has a developmental theme that says when innocence is sapped of its vitality, healing is the first priority. When you stay in innocence, in the now, seeing the world through eyes of wonder and being comfortable in the unknown, other people want that. And that pulling, especially this is individual, that pulling on an individual can really sap your vitality. This trait brings the power of the spirit to heal and be healed. And it's through withdrawing to recuperate. Perhaps Neptune will support dissolving what's in the way of healing your spirit, the spirit of yourself. Or it could veil it. Polarities again can be there. The detriment for this trait is hypochondria and the need to be healed by others. Ultimately, this is about being yourself. And when you're not yourself, when you're fighting yourself, it can bring illness. A lot of people don't rest, right, until they get sick and they're forced to. So it's a great time to really look after yourself, being yourself while this line is present. In particular, be good to your immune system. Saturn is in line 4. We had Neptune in that line for quite a while. It's a line that's called survival and says the nature of true innocence can be maintained regardless of circumstances. The spiritual warrior. Saturn brings limitation, constraints, consequences. So perhaps it's going to limit the circumstances under which you can maintain your innocence and being yourself. Maybe it'll bring greater discipline to this. Can be a little bit of a tricky pair here, Saturn and Neptune and the lines that they're in. So yeah, maybe perhaps being very disciplined in looking after your immune system is called for while this pair is together, or it could bring the consequences of illness. Uranus, with its unusualness, sitting in gate 8, an individual trait in the throat center. It's in line 5 called Dharma, which says holding together does not exclude eventual separation. Successful union after a proper term will encourage separation. The fledgling, once mature, is expected to leave the nest. This is right action, which does not harm the integrity of the union. So the exaltation's the teacher, right? You teach and then you bring through your contribution, support the others in taking that up, and then let it go. Whatever they're going to do with that spark is up to them. The detriment is the parent that can't let go of the child, right? Continuing to want to hold on and just not let that information go out into the world and be whatever it's going to be. Pluto sitting in that gate 41, the trait of contraction and decrease in the abstract experiential circuitry. We saw it in one of the moon connections there. It's the gate of daydreaming, of fantasizing about the next experience you want to have. It brings the pressure to start a new experience, and the true start of a new experience begins with the fantasizing. This isn't putting it into action yet. Now, in the collective, this is the gate of decrease. So there may be a decrease in resources that then promotes that fantasizing about what we want to have. And we may find very creative ways to make that happen. Remember, for any of these traits you don't have in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it playing out around you, you can learn from it, but whether there's actually something for you to do with it is according to your own strategy and authority. So don't let the conditioning field puppet you. Use it to your advantage when it's correct for you, according to your own strategy and authority. That brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. And if you're new to human design and you just want to understand the basics of the body graph, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes, bit of background on the system, feel free to grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. You can find it at margotgfraser.com/human design. All right. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be very grateful if you could give this episode a like and consider subscribing. There's going to be some moodiness in the air this cycle, but the possibility for clearly articulating yourself and expressing your emotions, your passions is also there. Also, the possibility for some really interesting ideas to come in. They could be fantastical, playful, creative. Just remember, once again, that ideas are transitory. You don't have to be fixed in them. You could hear expressing of beliefs with some intensity in this cycle. Have you been patient in the processing and collecting all the puzzle pieces? Let's do our best to really allow that direction of grace to take hold. All right. Well, have a great cycle. Be kind to one another, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.